Welcome to the DIY3DTech.com channel.
Welcome to this edition of DIY3DTech.com. In this edition, we're going to take a quick look at building basically this return manifold for my K40 laser printer. So I'm going to put the files up on Thingiverse for it. But the idea, I just want to talk a little bit about the idea first. So basically what I did is set up a flange here, so it's a little over 2 inches, and the idea is it will go on top of a 5-gallon bucket, and we'll show that in a little bit. And then what I did is I basically took this little piece, I just made it hexagonal to sturdy it up a little bit, because my opening in the bottom, I want it to be a little bit larger than in the top, and I'll explain that in a minute. And so just to give it more resiliency, because obviously this piece where the barbs are very thin. And so then I stepped down the size a little bit in the section where the barbs are, so it is a little bit larger in the base than it is in the barb section. And the idea behind this is I want to create a little bit of back pressure with this, because I'm going to use a pressure valve on the laser. And so basically it'll be teed off. So the water pressure will come in here. It'll actually hit the valve first, or the sensor, and then it will dump into here. So I want to create a little bit of back pressure, not too much. So with the flows and for my use, this should allow plenty of flow of water. Quite frankly, I've been running 3 gallons on it, and it's never really even warmed up in the bit of use I've provided. So I think unless you're really running it non-stop for quite some time, we have a heating issue. So, but anyways, we'll give this a shot. So we'll do a quick time lapse of this so you'll see it being built, kind of interesting. And then we'll cut over and I'll show it installed on the 5-gallon bucket. So see you on the other side. Cheers. Welcome back. So we've printed out the piece, got it installed. Unfortunately, the time lapse didn't work out for the piece on the 3D printer, but you can kind of see it here installed on the top of the 5-gallon bucket. You can see the screws poking through. We've used a zip tie to secure the tube, make sure it's a good seal. It's a pretty good pressure fit, but since there is a little bit of back pressure on this, which is intended, I did put the zip strip on there just to make doubly sure that this doesn't blow off. Now, one of the things I want to demonstrate is I'm going to turn on the pump, and as it pumps through, you can see it really squirts the water out. Now, one of the things, I don't know if you can hear it on the camera, but I typically use about roughly 3 gallons of water in this, which for me works out just fine for the cycles and stuff. I usually check the temperature. One of the future things I want to do is put a temperature sensor in there, but I've used this thing continuously for like a half hour, and really it hasn't changed the water temperature, so I haven't had a big problem here. So as you can see, my whole point of this is I can hear the water running, because it's squirting in there under some pretty good force. And then as mentioned, one of the reasons to give it just a little bit of restriction, there's not a lot of restriction, is the fact is I'm going to install a pressure sensor on top here that this will actually, I'll split the hose, it'll feed into a T. I've actually designed the T in Tinkercad. I'm going to print it out, install it, and so for the pressure sensor, if this provides no resistance, it's going to be hard for that pressure sensor to engage. So with a little bit of resistance, it is a very sensitive sensor, it'll kick in. And again, I think as you can see with this flow coming out, it's moving quite a bit of water, so I don't think that's an issue. Now, the other piece in the design of this is one of the things you can feel it pushing the air out through this opening. I am going to 3D print a bit of a grommet to go in here. However, you still need some ventilation in this, because I do seal this top on tight through this, so you can feel it pushing the air out. So it does circulate the air. So I do want to have a little bit of grommet on here, but still leave enough room for for ventilation, for a little vent hole. So I'll come up with something interesting. That's part of the fun of 3D printing. So anyways, this is my current state of the water system. I'm using the pump. I think you saw in the last episode, few episodes back, I had to do some epoxy work to make the hose and stuff fit in there because the hose simply wouldn't fit. So all that's actually working very good. It's a nice clean look. You know, before I just had a hole punched in here and sticking through, it worked, but this looks a whole lot nicer and very functional. The other thing, I don't know if you can hear it, however, with the bucket sitting, the pump is stuck with suction cups to the bottom of the bucket. And what's happening is you can kind of hear it vibrating. It's vibrating this whole bench. So I don't know if you can hear the sound difference when I lift it up off the bench. So I am going to build some 3D printer, maybe even on the router, design some isolation feet to go under the bucket to stop that vibration from being transferred from the bucket into this, to quiet it up a little bit, because again, I can feel it just shaking the whole table to that motor. So anyways, just kind of a future project. So if this helped you out with your water system and your laser, hey, give it a thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. Helps us make more. And we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.